Hey, what's up guys? This is Oakley. I'm still on break, but I found in my hard drive actually a replay that I had done of one of the Shogun 2 battles, so I figured I'd bring that to you guys, add to a bit more of the variety. Anyways, we're going to go through the battle, and this is going to be kind of to show off what's going to be my typical style of commentary come Rome 2, and I'm also going to just use this as an opportunity to kind of introduce you to my playstyle, and then serve as a place where you can give me feedback on what you do and do not like in terms of the commentary style, the way I fight, the way I present the battles. But in any case, let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be me. My current name on Steam is THFE Oakley High Def. And my opponent here is going to be Rotrusuke. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is going to be on Sakura Ridge. So of course with this battle it's always about racing to the top and getting up there just so you can get up there, because of course whoever holds the hill advantage obviously has a really big advantage, but of course the sides are also very important. So in this case you'll see that I have my sort of standard Japanese traditional army with melee forces, whereas my opponent is armed with the Fall of the Samurai troops. So what I do is, knowing this, is that I'm going to be pushing the sides, trying to spread out his forces as much as possible, and trying to get him to reveal any hidden components that he might have. So that's what you want to do in these battles, is of course send forces around the flanks, always send cavalry, and sometimes you want to support them with infantry, especially when there's, for example, a dojo. You want to have some maybe spear units to help push that flank. Anyways, you can see here that I have moved my forces around the side, and using these basically gunners here, I'm going to start picking up his forces and trying to do damage here and there, and especially getting around the side, because the second you have forces around behind your opponent, he has to turn around, swivel his camera, and every action he takes there distracts from the action he can take on top of the battle, like the main battlefield or other flanks. You always want to break up their attention. And you can see there, because I had two forces against one of his, I could separate them, keep one unit running, while my my ranged gunners, my mounted gunners, will be able to keep taking pot shots at his troops. So that kind of allows me to secure this flank here, and I keep Katana Cav hidden for the moment. Those are going to be crucial later in the battle. And you can see I let his forces take the top of the hill. Now why that's, usually you want to take that hill, but not at the cost of being slaughtered by his forces. So even if I had contested the top, his cavalry had the sides, or at least I hadn't held this flank yet, and so he could have shot me. And anyways, with these Fall of the Samurai forces, you don't want to get shot up, so what I do is I retreat behind the line of this hill, and as his forces redeploy, that's when you have to strike with your cavalry. So you can see me doing just that, breaking through. And again, as I was telling you, anytime you attack in one point, your enemy has to reply by doing some action, so that distracts him. So anytime you're gonna try and do this sort of attack, you have to move multiple components and make the most out of his distraction. One of the things I don't like about Fall of the Samurai troops is, I just disrupted those forces. I cut through them, and within like a couple of seconds, they're able to turn around and start shooting my guys, and they do a lot of damage. So fighting these armies is very, very difficult, and even the slightest mishandling of your troops can lead to a huge, blow to your forces. But you can see there, I thought that was acceptable to hit some of his exposed troops and allow, particularly for the movement of my forces behind his main line here. You can see what I'll often do is try and get my enemy forces out of position, and the way I did that was by presenting a cavalry threat. Even though they did take some losses, it meant that I had a maneuvering advantage in terms of bringing his troops off the top of the hill, allowing my main forces to move to the top. Now you can see here my Yari Ashigaru are taking hits. And you might be wondering, why did I attack and retreat? All I've done is I've lost a lot of men. You have to realize if I had commit those troops right there, they would have died anyways, and it would have been at a disadvantage. So what I do is retreat, draw his men up, and as he thinks I'm retreating, go ahead and charge back down at his men. Now this is a much better opportunity for me. I'm able to catch his troops at a disadvantage on the downhill charge, outnumbered in the forest right here with not much support, and then I get the real advantage. So by even though I did take some losses on the retreat, I was able to, return the favor. And in any case, as I said, whenever you're going to attack your opponent, make sure you attack on all fronts at the same time. So I saw that his forces were distracted. They just let off a volley, so all of a sudden I'm going to unleash my cavalry basically on all fronts and try and make full advantage. You can even see my forces back here. As his troops redeploy, I move my mounted gunners forward to try and take pot shots at him. You can see everywhere my forces, my cavalry, are making the rounds, moving around, making sure I'm pinning down his troops, because with these Fall of the Samurai forces, their main weakness is when they're redeploying, and that's exactly when you want to engage with them. So you can see here, even though I'm going to lose some cavalry forces, I do think it's beneficial for me to disrupt his forces, weaken them, and basically create a sense of panic among his troops. You can see here I'm retreating my cavalry and replacing them with the more sturdy infantry, because you don't want to overcommit your cavalry. Their strength is in their mobility and initial charge, but once you've committed them into a fight, you want to retreat them, but don't just retreat, with an empty sense of attack and retreat. You want to make sure you make full advantage of that attack by sending an infantry or something more substantial that'll chop down the remaining forces. You can see here I retreat and I attack again, always moving in and out on various sides. And you can see here he's got his forces here, cavalry trying to support his generals right there, and I'm going to push right through to his general. I want to make sure I have his general locked down. That's a very important part of a Fall of the Samurai army, is the general, because troops generally don't have that great morale, and if you can have that morale blow, then you want to make sure you deliver it. Anyways, you can see here my cavalry charges have effectively broken up the coherence of his line, and when that happens, I've taken him, basically forced him to surround those units on the further side of that flank, and that's when I move my main infantry body up. You can see with all the distraction on the main hill, he's left his forces here, and what I'm going to start doing is discreetly sort of picking off his forces with my mounted gunners. And in case, like I said, I've done the disruption with my cavalry, they're going to retreat, and then I'm going to send in my infantry body, and as you can see, his forces are really in no position because of the harassment I had with my cavalry and other forces. So I'm going to go ahead and basically engage with my upgraded Lone Sword Ashigaru, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying to play around with the edges, and you can see here his cavalry finally woke up and they're going to be able to attack my lone swords here. Now the lone swords, will hold their own against enemy infantry if they can close the distance, but what happens is here they were taken in the flank and basically destroyed. But that was basically to my advantage because it distracted his cavalry on the side. And you can see just how fast his infantry reform right there. I think that's kind of cheap. They weren't even finished lining up before they started shooting my men, and again I decided to disengage because had I chosen to keep engaging I would have lost, so I take the lesser of two evils and retreat. Basically to fight another day. And you can see here I'm wrapping up this flank, so by using my cavalry on the other side and my infantry, I lost that lone sword, and my cavalry took a lot of shots on the far flank. Even though those were temporary losses in the overall strategy of it, they provided for distraction that distracted his troops on that flank and allowed this side to basically be rolled up. And then I roll in with my katana heroes. They're basically the second wave that are going to come in and butcher his men. They have high armor, high morale, high attack, and they're going to slice through his forces that are now committed, and they won't be able to put off shots. And you can see here now I'm going to finally deploy my last hidden components of the katana. These are sword cavalry. They're very strong against tired infantry, so that's basically going to be the final nail in the coffin against my enemy forces. You can see here my champions basically slicing through his Red Bear infantry, and they're doing very, very well. And again, my cavalry, I saved some of them. Even if there's a small number of cavalry, they can really do much to turn the tides of the battle. I have my spearmen here engaging his forces, and I was able to finally wrap up the majority of his troops through various different engagements at different sides of the battlefield, always seeking to attack when the opportunity was mine, and not being afraid to retreat if it was a terrible position. And so you can see basically the results right here. Typically with the Fall of the Samurai army, they will you will have a huge advantage over them, but right now you can see I was at a great numerical disadvantage, and I just wanted to show you some of the kill counts here. My hero, for example, doing very well. In any case, this was kind of a quicker battle, and I wasn't able to talk too much about the strategies, but you can see kind of how I think through my battles and how I'll put them into effect. I recommend that you check out these other videos here, which are previous commentaries. Leave comments there, let me know what you think. In any case, I start to talk about the tactics in Shogun 2, and it's going to be a way for me to kind of prep you for what it might be like in Rome 2. Again, please leave your feedback below. I love to tweak and implement basically your recommendations into my next videos. Again, I'm still on vacation, so I won't be able to have more of these gameplay videos. This is just kind of a leftover video that I had from a game before I left for vacation. But once I'm back, I'm obviously going to be having more of these just to develop my editing and commentary skills. And it's always entertaining, I think, to share it with you guys. And of course, I'll have more Rome 2 news. So yeah, see you guys next time.